On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Phil Hartman, a beloved comedic actor known for his work on Saturday Night Live, The Simpsons, and NewsRadio, died tragically and violently on May 28, 1998, in a murder-suicide that shocked the entertainment world and the public at large. At age 49, Hartman was shot to death by his wife, Bryn Omdahl Hartman, as he slept in their Los Angeles home. She later turned the gun on herself. The circumstances were deeply personal, rooted in marital tension, substance abuse, and mental instability. Yet the ripple effects of his death extended far beyond the walls of his home. Hartman's passing came at the end of a decade when comedy had become a critical cultural outlet, often offering Americans a lens through which to process political tension, media saturation, and social change. Known for his wit, impersonations, and impeccable timing, Hartman was often referred to as the glue of SNL during his tenure from 1986 to 1994. His presence symbolized an era of stability and professionalism in a chaotic, creative environment. The murder sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the broader public, confronting fans with the uncomfortable reality that fame and talent do not shield anyone from personal turmoil. In many ways, the tragedy reflected the increasing awareness of mental health and domestic violence issues in the late 1990s, topics that had too often been swept under the rug in previous generations. Hartman's death forced difficult conversations about emotional well-being, addiction, and the pressures faced by those in the spotlight. In the immediate aftermath, colleagues and fans mourned deeply. His roles on The Simpsons, notably Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz, were retired in his honor. Tributes poured in from fellow comedians, writers, and viewers who recognized that they had lost not just a performer, but a rare figure who brought intelligence and heart to every role. Phil Hartman's legacy lives on in the work he left behind. His characters remain iconic, often studied for their subtle humor and versatility. He has been commemorated in documentaries, retrospective specials, and a star on Canada's Walk of Fame. His death serves as a solemn reminder of life's fragility, the hidden battles people face, and the enduring power of art to both entertain and heal. In remembering Phil Hartman, we are reminded that the greatest impact is not always made in dramatic speeches or leading roles, but in the quiet brilliance of consistency, empathy, and kindness, qualities that outlive even the most tragic end. Gary Coleman, a child star best known for his role as Arnold Jackson on the sitcom Diff'rent Strokes, died on May 28, 2010, at the age of 42. His death was the result of a brain hemorrhage caused by a fall in his Utah home, categorized as accidental. Yet the circumstances of Coleman's later life and passing offer a poignant commentary on fame, exploitation, and the fleeting nature of celebrity in modern American culture. Coleman's career skyrocketed in the late 1970s and early 1980s. His precocious charm and iconic catchphrase, "What you talking about, Willis?" making him one of the most recognizable television personalities of his time. However, his youthful success was undermined by personal and professional challenges. Diagnosed with a congenital kidney disease that stunted his growth and required frequent medical attention, Coleman endured lifelong health issues that would later mirror his emotional and financial struggles. Despite earning millions during his early years, Coleman filed for bankruptcy in 1999, citing mismanagement and parental misappropriation of his earnings, an unfortunately common narrative for child actors of his generation. By the time of his death, he had largely retreated from the public eye, surfacing occasionally in reality television and tabloid headlines rather than acting roles, a fall from grace that reflected the darker underbelly of celebrity culture. Coleman's death did not shake the cultural foundations the way political assassinations or royal suicides have, but it ignited a national conversation about how child stars are treated, the lack of long-term protection in the entertainment industry, and the psychological toll of fame. It reminded the public that early adoration does not guarantee lifelong security or happiness. In the wake of his death, tributes flowed in from fans and former colleagues, often tinged with sorrow over what could have been. Gary Coleman became a symbol of both joy and caution, a boy who made the world laugh but was unable to fully escape the system that profited from his youth. In death, Coleman remains an enduring figure in pop culture, remembered through nostalgic reruns, internet memes, and retrospectives. His life invites reflection on how society consumes fame and what it means to truly care for those who entertain us. Through this lens, Coleman's story is less about tragedy and more a call to honor the human behind the icon. Maria Dolores Pradera, one of Spain's most cherished vocalists and actresses, died on May 28, 2018 in Madrid at the age of 93. Her death, due to natural causes, marked the quiet end of a luminous artistic era that had spanned over 7 decades. Known for her elegant stage presence and a deep, emotive voice that conveyed both sorrow and strength, Pradera was a cultural bridge between Spain and Latin America, particularly through her interpretations of rancheras, boleros, and traditional ballads. Her passing reflected the gradual fading of a generation of artists shaped by the mid-20th century, a time when music was not only entertainment, but also a form of resistance, memory, and emotional survival in a post-war Spain. Having lived through the Spanish Civil War and Franco's dictatorship, Pradera maintained a dignified neutrality, letting her music speak to universal themes of love, loss, and longing without becoming overtly political. Yet her art resonated with many during times of censorship and repression, offering emotional expression in an era when open dissent was dangerous. The immediate aftermath of her death was an outpouring of grief across the Spanish-speaking world. Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy publicly mourned her, and tributes came from across Latin America, where her voice had become as iconic as the genres she interpreted. The loss of Pradera signaled not just the death of an artist, but the closing of a chapter in cultural history, one where tradition was revered and music served as a conduit for connection across oceans and generations. Her legacy has only grown since her passing. Pradera's recordings continue to inspire new generations of musicians, and her life is often celebrated in documentaries, concerts, and retrospectives. Her elegance, poise, and command of emotion through song are held up as ideals in the modern musical landscape, where such depth is increasingly rare. In reflecting on Pradera's death, we see humanity's yearning to preserve beauty and meaning through memory. Her voice, preserved on record and in the hearts of listeners, becomes a testament to art's power to transcend mortality. In honoring figures like her, we recognize that while life is finite, the stories and emotions conveyed through music endure, echoes of the human soul etched into history. Danielle Aroka, the striking Italian actress best known for her role in the 1961 dark comedy Divorce Italian Style, died on May 28, 1995 in Milo, Sicily, at the age of 57. Her death was due to natural causes, specifically following complications from a prolonged period of mental illness, including severe depression and schizophrenia. Though her passing was not widely publicized, it marked the quiet end of a life once lit brightly by cinematic fame and later overshadowed by psychological turmoil and social marginalization. Aroka's decline mirrored the era's struggle with mental health awareness and the stigmatization of women who defied the expectations of traditional femininity. In the 1960s, she had reached the height of her career, portraying strong, often sensual characters. But as her mental health began to deteriorate, the industry, unforgiving and image-conscious, quickly cast her aside. This reflects a broader societal trend of the time. Mental illness, especially among women, was often dismissed, misunderstood, or hidden rather than treated with empathy and support. The consequences of her death were subtle but poignant. Unlike cultural icons whose deaths provoke national mourning or shift public discourse, Aroka's passing invited a quieter reflection on forgotten fame, the fragility of artistic careers, and the toll of untreated mental illness. Yet for film historians and fans of Italian cinema, her story has gained renewed attention as a tragic cautionary tale, one that underscores the costs of a culture that elevates beauty and success while neglecting emotional and psychological well-being. In death, Aroka's legacy has found a quieter resonance. Retrospectives on Italian cinema now often include her, not only for her magnetic screen presence, but also as a symbol of an era's beauty and its blindness. Documentaries, film festivals, and academic studies have helped reframe her career and life, offering her a place in the pantheon of complex, remembered actresses. Her story reminds us that how we remember the dead, particularly artists, often reveals more about our values than about their lives. In commemorating figures like Danielle Aroka, we not only honor their art, but also confront our cultural blind spots. Through remembrance, we grant a measure of justice, transforming fading fame into enduring memory. Martha Scott, a distinguished American actress whose career spanned both stage and screen, passed away on May 28, 2003, at the age of 90. Her death, from natural causes, marked the end of a graceful life steeped in the evolution of American entertainment. Best known for her Academy Award-nominated role as Emily Webb in Our Town, and as the steadfast mother in epics like The Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur, Scott's career reflected the values and artistic sensibilities of mid-20th century America: restraint, emotional depth, and the dignity of quiet strength. Her passing came at a time when Hollywood was shifting rapidly toward faster-paced, youth-driven media. In that context, Scott's death represented more than the loss of a beloved actress. It symbolized the fading of an era where character-driven storytelling and theater-trained performers dominated screens. Her life bridged the golden age of Hollywood and the dawn of modern film, and her quiet departure reminded the industry of the roots from which it had grown. The immediate consequences of her passing did not cause cultural shockwaves, but her death was met with respect by those who appreciated the foundations of American theater and cinema. Unlike figures whose dramatic exits rewrite history, Scott's contribution was more subtle, though no less vital. She was a founding member of the National Repertory Theater and used her influence to promote the arts, helping preserve live theater in an age increasingly dominated by film and television. Scott's death did not necessarily amplify her legend in the way that sudden or tragic deaths often do. Instead, it invited a re-evaluation of her legacy, one rooted in craftsmanship, longevity, and her role in iconic productions that shaped American cinematic identity. As an actress who portrayed maternal and moral anchors, her roles have endured, offering viewers a glimpse into the values of an America that revered family, resilience, and understated heroism. The way we commemorate Martha Scott, through film retrospectives, inclusion in theater histories, and the continued appreciation of Our Town, reveals our respect for those who embody enduring, if quieter, forms of greatness. Her death highlights how mortality invites reflection not only on a life lived, but on the values and voices we choose to preserve. Through her performances, Scott lives on, not in spectacle but in sincerity, where memory meets meaning. Maya Angelou, the revered poet, author, and civil rights activist, passed away peacefully from natural causes on May 28, 2014, at the age of 86. Her death marked the end of a remarkable life steeped in creative brilliance, unflinching truth-telling, and unyielding advocacy for justice. Though not sudden or tragic, her passing resonated deeply across cultural and political spheres, reflecting the magnitude of her influence and the enduring relevance of her voice. Angelou lived through and shaped the most tumultuous eras of the 20th century, from the Jim Crow South to the Civil Rights Movement and beyond. Her death in the 21st century, at a time when discussions of race, identity, and gender remained central to public discourse, underscored how essential her life's work continued to be. Her autobiographical work, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, shattered literary conventions and societal silences about Black womanhood, sexual abuse, and resilience. Her death served not as an end, but a passing of the torch to a new generation of thinkers, writers, and activists. The immediate consequence of her death was a global outpouring of grief, gratitude, and reflection. Leaders from President Barack Obama to everyday readers honored her legacy, not only for her lyrical genius, but for her embodiment of dignity, grace, and strength. Tributes flowed across platforms, from poetic readings to public murals, from tweets to televised retrospectives, demonstrating her rare ability to reach hearts across cultures, classes, and continents. Unlike figures whose legends grow in tragedy, Angelou's legend was amplified by the longevity and consistency of her moral and artistic voice. She was a witness and a prophet, someone who spoke for the silenced and reminded humanity of its shared longing for dignity and love. Her passing didn't shift the trajectory of history so much as it prompted a reaffirmation of values she had long championed: truth, compassion, and the courage to speak one's story. Angelou's memory lives on through the continued study of her works, the annual recitations of her poetry, and the countless artists and activists she inspired. Her death reveals how humanity immortalizes those who not only wield power, but elevate others with it. We remember her not through monuments of marble, but through the rhythm of her words, etched in books, echoed in classrooms, and alive in every voice that dares to rise and sing. Lorine Tuttle, a versatile and prolific American actress known for her work in radio, film, and television, passed away on May 28, 1986, at the age of 85. Her death, due to cancer, was a natural one, occurring quietly in her home in Encino, California. Unlike many of the dramatic or violent ends that marked the legacies of historical giants, Tuttle's passing was gentle, reflective of a career grounded not in scandal or power, but in the steady influence of talent and professionalism. Tuttle was often referred to as the First Lady of Radio for her unparalleled range and presence across the golden age of radio broadcasting. Her death signaled the quiet closure of a chapter in American entertainment history, one that had already begun to fade with the dominance of television and film. In this sense, the circumstances of her passing mirrored a broader cultural shift, as America transitioned away from the auditory imagination of radio dramas into the increasingly visual and commercial world of late 20th century media. The immediate consequences of her death were largely felt within the entertainment industry, especially by those who remembered the golden days of radio. While she may not have been a household name to younger generations, among peers and fans of classic media, her loss was deeply felt. Her legacy, however, continued in the way she helped bridge the gap between media formats, moving seamlessly from radio to film to television, and in her mentorship of younger actors. Tuttle's death did not shift the trajectory of history in the way that a political assassination or martyrdom might, but it did contribute to the immortalization of a genre and an era. Through reruns of classic radio programs and her performances in films like Psycho, 1960, where she played the mother of the doomed Marion Crane, Tuttle remains present in the cultural imagination. She represents the quiet yet enduring power of character actors, those whose names may not dominate marquees but whose work enriches the artistic landscape. Her passing reminds us that not all legacies are forged in fire or revolution. Some are built slowly, voice by voice, performance by performance, and are remembered with a kind of reverent nostalgia. Through commemorations in old-time radio forums, film retrospectives, and teaching legacies, Lorine Tuttle's memory endures, an emblem of dedication, adaptability, and the quiet dignity of a life devoted to craft. Eddie Barth, an American actor renowned for his distinctive raspy voice and the nickname Mr. Gravel, died of heart failure on May 28, 2010, at the age of 78 in Los Angeles. His death was natural, the quiet conclusion of a steady, decades-long career in television, film, and voiceover work. While not a global icon, Barth's death marked the end of a particular kind of working-class artistry in Hollywood, one that valued voice, consistency, and character over celebrity. Best known to many for his voice in the popular Miller Lite commercials of the 1980s, particularly the line, "Light beer from Miller, everything you always wanted in a beer, and less." Barth became a cultural touchstone not through leading roles, but through the subtle omnipresence of his voice. His gravelly tone cut through the noise of consumer culture, becoming synonymous with authenticity and no-nonsense appeal during an era when advertising increasingly relied on memorable personalities to influence the public. Barth's passing reflected the fading of an era in which television and advertising were dominated by distinctive character voices and personalities rather than slick visuals or digital effects. The media landscape was shifting rapidly toward youth-driven platforms and viral content, leaving behind figures like Barth, who represented the voiceover golden age. In this way, his death underscored the transformation of American entertainment values, from durability and identity to novelty and speed. While his passing didn't send shockwaves through the political or cultural world, it did prompt a wave of fond remembrance among fans and colleagues, particularly those within the voiceover and television industries. His death served as a reminder of the unsung heroes of entertainment, those who may never receive top billing, yet whose contributions are etched into collective memory through sheer familiarity and emotional resonance. Eddie Barth's legacy lives on through recordings, reruns, and the unmistakable sound of his voice, preserved in commercials, series like Simon & Simon, and various animated works. His death highlights humanity's tendency to cherish voices and personas that ground us in specific times and feelings. In art and media, such figures are immortalized not by grandeur, but by the emotional intimacy they forge with audiences. Through subtle impact rather than dramatic exit, Barth reminds us that memory and mortality are not always shaped by spectacle. Sometimes, they echo most powerfully in the familiar cadence of a voice we didn't know we'd miss until it's gone.